So welcome to part two. Let's get some details about the handshake protocol. Fine. The major aspect in this lecture that we will be covering is the SSL handshake protocol. That is the most important part of the SSL. Okay. So our focus here is mainly to describe, to evaluate, to understand what and how handshake protocol takes place. So again, let's just have a look at it. The handshake protocol allows the server and the client to authenticate each other. Each other means mutual authentication. Mutual authentication is optional, but to perform authentication and to negotiate an encryption and make keys and algorithm. Okay. Now you can say that we can divide it into 3 or 4 phases. In the first phase of the SSL handshake, and this is the very beginning, this is the first phase of the entire SSL. Okay, so in the first phase of the SSL handshake, what happens that the client send a client hello message. Fine. And like when you are handshaking with someone, you say hi. Okay, and the other person also says hi, how are you. Fine. So it is exactly like that, but it's a bit technical in nature. So the client says hello and the server also says hello. They introduce each other. Fine. Now this introduction is not that simple. It's not just regular hello messages. Fine. It includes some information. These messages, this is a whole bunch of message, and this one. Fine. So this message contains some information. What are those information in the client hello message? This is the client hello. Fine. In the client hello message, they establish the security capabilities, which means that they confirm or agrees on the security capabilities, including which protocol version are they using. Fine. So the client will say I am using, or I support SSL version 3 or 2 or TLS version 2 or 3, whatever it is. Okay. So they specify their protocol number. The session ID is being created. This is more of the client hello. Okay. This is the client hello message details. So in the client hello message, the client present what? Its protocol version, the supported version of the SSL or the TLS. Fine. It also presents its session ID, that this will be my session ID. It produces the cipher suite. Cipher suite means that these are the algorithms for encryption, for confidentiality, that I support. The client browser says, okay, that I support. So it will present a menu to the server. In the client hello message, it will present a menu. We will have a look at that menu as well. It will present a list of protocols from which the server will then later on select. Okay. So cipher suite here means these are the algorithms that I support. Fine. This is my menu. So the client will say that this is the list of cipher algorithms, which includes what? The authentication mechanism, the encryption mechanism algorithm, and the digest algorithm. These are the ones that I support. Okay. And it also specify the compression method, that these are my available or supported compression methods. Fine. Here the client presents its capabilities. Fine. An initial random number. This is very important. The client server, the client hello message also contain a random number. Fine. And this random number actually help us or help the SSL to prevent from the replay attacks. Fine. Remember replay attacks, that when a packet is replayed to a particular server again in order to get inside, in order to start communication, or in order to get authenticated, to get inside that server. Fine. Now if you are using one secret all the time, or one token for authentication all the time, then it can be replayed. But if it is random, fine, if it is random, then you cannot perform the replay attack, because every time the server will be waiting for, or will be expecting a new value. So if the attacker present any random value, it will be discarded. Why? Because it is a previous message. It will be discarded because the server has a record of it, that it has been already presented. So it helps us to understand, it helps us to prevent from the replay attacks. Now what does the server hello message contain? The server hello message the server hello message, exactly have these components. But in the client hello message, we provide the list. The client provide a list for the that these are the supported algorithms that I will be using. Fine. So let me show you. This is the Cypher suite, and this is presented by the client in the client hello message. Okay, so the client hello message contains a list of Cypher suite which informs the server that these are the supported ones that I support. Please pick and choose one from it. So because they have to agree, right, during the handshake, so the server, depending upon its own capability, it will pick and choose one Cypher suite. Okay, so the server hello message will contain what? Apart from the random number, the server random number will also be there in the server hello message. The session ID, its own session ID for its own tracking. Fine. It's the compression method and the Cypher suite. The ciphers here are actually one value here in the server hello message. Why? Because the server has to select one compression method and one Cypher suite method for the communication, for achieving the message integrity and the message digest. Okay, so the server hello message, instead of the Cypher suite, it only lists one item in there that is selected from the menu that is being presented in the client hello. Okay, so this one shows the capabilities of the client hello message apart from the random number, the protocol version, fine, and the session ID. And this one, apart from again the random numbers, the protocol version, and the session ID, it includes what? The cipher that will be used, the picked up cipher, or the selected cipher and the selected compression method that will be used, just to confirm that I support this one or I will be using this one. Okay, so this first message is actually the first phase, which includes both the client hello and the server hello message, is an agreement of the security capabilities and the confirmation of the security capabilities. Just the algorithm. Fine, just the algorithms. Now in the second phase, and the second phase is all conducted by the server. Fine. In the second phase, when the confirmation of the ciphers and the message digest and the compression methods are agreed upon, fine, then the server does what? First, it sends its certificate, its digital certificate. Why? For the authentication. Fine. And that's why we see, if we click on the lock icon that is there in the web URL, you will see the certificate, which means that the server has actually sent us its certificate for authentication purposes. So the first message in the phase 2 is what? The server send its certificate for server authentication, and the second contains the server key exchange. This message actually contains either the public key of the server or some key parameters. Fine. But for simplicity, you can say that this includes the public key of the server. Fine, which is usually there in the certificate as well. Fine, so it depends. It can either be public key or some other key parameters. Why does the server send these things? Because for the PMS, if you recall the PMS, a pre-master secret, it is a secret, right, that will be created by the client. Fine. When the client creates the PMS later, it has to share it with the server, and this is what? A secret or sensitive material, right? Sensitive information. So it has to be encrypted. It has to be confidentially, or it has to be sent in an encrypted form to the server. For that encryption, it makes use either of the public key of the server key or other key parameters to encrypt this, and then share it, to create it first, and then to encrypt it with these parameters or the public key, and then send it to the server. Okay, so this contains the information, you can say this server key exchange contains the information that will be used by the client to protect or to encrypt the PMS that it will be creating. Fine, that it will be creating. Then this is optional, this message for mutual authentication. Okay, so if it is a mutual authentication, which if the server requires the authentication of the client as well, then it will say what, send me your certificate as well. So the certificate request means to the client, it means what, to send me your certificate so that I can also authenticate you. Fine, but this is usually optional. Have you ever seen that when you are logging into the portal is protected by SSL, right? Did it ever ask you, or did you ever feel that you have to upload your digital certificate? No. So the client is authenticated but using a different method, which is your login credentials. Fine, you are not authenticated using your digital certificate. Otherwise everyone will be required to have a digital certificate, and whenever they are logging into the portal, they will be uploading their certificate, right? So this is optional. Client authentication is usually optional in SSL. This message is optional, but if it is required in sensitive organization, they have actually sensitive organization in military setups, for example, they have created digital certificates for their employees, and if they are logging into their servers remotely using SSL, they have to provide that digital certificate. Fine, so in that case it will be mutual. In that case it will be required, but usually the majority in the web communication that we see, it is optional. And then server says, I am done, that from my side everything is all done. Fine, this is just a message, that my hello message that I have started in this first phase here, I have concluded. Fine, so from my side every negotiation is completed. Only the agreement of the cipher suites or the compression methods, from my side it is all included. So these are simple messages. Certificate request, the key exchange require the information that will be used for encrypting the PMS. Fine, and the certificate includes the digital certificate of the server. Now in the third phase corresponds to the client only. So see, the client performs the third phase. First of all, it presents its certificate. Fine, in this phase the client presents its certificate only if it is requested. See this one, so if this one is requested, then the client will be presenting its certificate. If it is not requested, this is not required then. And then it sends a message that we call the client key exchange. This client key exchange actually contains that PMS. So client key exchange message is actually the encrypted PMS. What is a PMS? It is a secret value that is created by the client. Fine, and it will be used for further deriving of further keys for encryption, decryption, and for message hashes. Fine, and this is encrypted with the value that is being sent. This is encryption, right? For encryption we need the key. Which key is used here? The key that is being, or the key material that is being used sent in this server exchange message. So I will say this is encrypted with the server exchange message value. Fine, it can either be the public key or some other key material. Okay, now when the server receive this one, it will do what? It will decrypt it, for example, with its private key, and it will get the PMS. Fine, and then it's also sent the last message here is the certificate verify. Certificate verify is a confirmation message, which means that the certificate that you have sent me, it is telling the server that the certificate that you have sent me, I have authenticated it. Sorry, where is it? I have verified it. Okay, so this verification, if the digital certificate is appropriate, it will be acknowledging it. If the digital certificate is invalid, it will be neglecting the server. Okay, this verification message contains what? The information about the confirmation or the decline of the server certificate. I hope you are getting it. And then the last message, the last phase, which is the phase 4. See, until now, until now what we have done, we have agreed, not we, but the client and server has agreed on what? On the algorithms, and on the algorithms necessary for the encryption, decryption, and for the message digest, which is the MAC. Fine. In this message up here, until here, we have also created a PMS and shared the PMS secretly, which will be used to create the keys required for the algorithms. That has been agreed. Fine. So we have the algorithms now, and we have the keys now. So everything is all done, right? So in the last phase, what happened here is the client says change cipher spec. It sends, remember the change cipher spec protocol. This is just a confirmation message that on my side every security SSL configuration is being confirmed. This message indicates the SSL communication configuration, okay? And then it sends a finished message. Finished message indicates the end of SSL communication from the client side, okay? And this is actually the first encrypted message, a trial encrypted message. This is the first encrypted message. Which message is encrypted here? I believe it is the random number that they have already communicated with each other. So this message is actually the first encrypted message, and this indicates the end of the SSL handshake message from the client side. The server will also have to conclude. So the server will say change cipher spec, which means what? Again, that on my side the SSL configuration is confirmed. Fine. And it will send then what? The first encrypted message from its side, just to indicate the encrypted message, just to confirm the end of the SSL handshake from its side. Okay, so this is all easy peasy SSL communication. Let's just revise it. So we have the client side and we have the server side. The first of all, the client sends hello message, which includes what? The random number, the session ID, the protocol version, the cipher suite, the menu that will be presented to the server to select and choose one algorithm from the cipher suite and select and choose one algorithm for the compression. The server will say hello itself to that response or to that request. So the server hello will contain what? Its own random number, its own session ID for its own tracking, the protocol version that it supports, and from the cipher suite algorithms that are being presented by the client, it will pick and choose one, and the compression method menu that has been, or list that has been presented by the client in the client hello message will be it will be selected here and it will be sent as a server hello message. Fine. Then the server sends its certificate for the authentication. It sends its server key exchange. This information is used for what? Encrypting the PMS, which will be created by who? By the client, right? And then server will say I'm done with my side, I'm done from my negotiations, I'm done. The server, when the server hello done message is received by the client will do what? Sends the PMS. Send the PMS encrypted with the information here in the server key exchange message. It is usually it is the public key of the server. Fine. And then it will, if it is required, because here you can see that the server is not asking for a certificate request from the client side, which means that this is a one-way authentication, the server authentication only. Fine. So if that is required, the client will send its own certificate. After that, it will send a change cipher spec message, which indicates what? The confirmation of the SSL configuration, and a finish message, which is the first encrypted message. Fine. And to respond to that, the server will send its own change cipher spec message that on my side I have also concluded my cipher spec the SSL configuration, and this is my first encrypted message as a finished. Fine. Now if it is done, both the parties have the keys, both the parties have the algorithms to protect their further communication, further parties. So now the parties are ready to roll. To use those symmetric encryption, symmetric keys to perform encryption and hash generations to protect its messages. Okay, we have already concluded it, so let's just have a revise them anyway. So what is the client hello message? It contains some information. First, it contains the protocol version. It can be either SSL or TLS. That is to inform this is done to inform the server that this is the supported version by the browser. It also includes a 32-byte random number that we discuss is used for preventing the replay attacks. Fine. The first 4 byte of these 32 bytes are the time of day in seconds. Fine. And the rest one is just a random number, and it is used for the replay attacks. We also established that. It also contains the session ID that will be used on the client side to track care of its to trace or to track its session resumption, session termination, everything. It is also a 32 byte. And this client hello message, as we mentioned previously, it also offers a list or menu of algorithms corresponding to encryption, corresponding to message digest, fine, and corresponding to compression methods to present it to the server that these are the supported lists. Please pick and choose one. Fine. This is the cipher suite algorithm. This is an example. I will show you in one of the demonstration how does this look like, but it is exactly somehow related, the same. The cipher suites that is presented to the server in the client hello message has this form. Okay, so it has certain components. The first one indicates what type of protocol are you using, whether it can be SSL or TLS. Fine. Let's just have a look at this one. These are the options or capabilities. So it says, the client says that I am using SSL, I support SSL. I will be using RSA for the server key exchange. I support the server key exchange message. Fine. I will be using for authentication or for transmitting of the PMS. I support RSA. With this is used for authentication. Okay, public key algorithm used, and this is mainly used for authentication or the encryption of the PMS. From after the with, it specifies the symmetric encryption algorithms and capabilities. The first one that you see here is the encryption algorithm. Fine. The encryption IDEA is one of the encryption algorithm. Just like we have DES, we have RC4 here, we also have DES here. Okay. The second one, this one indicates the type of, this is actually a type of the IDEA. So CBC actually stands for cipher blockchaining. Okay, this is one of the method. You can say this is a modified form of the IDEA. So we remember we have done DES, but then DES can be modified in different manners. One is cipher blockchain that you see here. One is cipher feedback mode. One is there are 5 or 6 modes, right? So this indicates the mode of this encryption algorithm that will be used, and the last one indicate the message digest algorithm. Fine. The message digest algorithm. There are some for example this one here. See, it indicates that I'm using SSL protocol. I'll be using for the public key operation, I will be using the RSA. For encryption, I am supporting RC4, Rivest Cipher version 4, which has a 128-bit key, because RC4 comes in various keys with various keys, right? And this one is used for the message digest. Fine. So these indicate 3 types of algorithms. One for public key operation, second after the with keyword. After the with keyword, it indicates the encryption algorithm and its modes or its specification, and the last one indicates the digest technique or method that will be used. And these are actually the number that you see here. These are the numbers. These are, you can say, just like you have student IDs, right? Each combination has a unique ID. So they actually, the server, they both means the same thing. So your student ID, for example, is 1 2 3 4 5. It highlights what? This is a student ID for what? For example, for Hamza. Fine. So this is an ID identifier. So if the server receive this ID or this string, it indicates the same thing. It points to the same thing. So the server will see or will understand what do they mean. Here in some of them you can see null, which means that they are not using confidentiality. Okay, so they are not using confidentiality. So this will be only used for message digest. Okay, the server hello message, which is a response to the client hello message, also it includes its own version of the SSL or TLS. Fine, its random number, the session ID, for later resumption of the session and things like that. Session ID is used for session creation, management, control, resumption, termination. And the cipher suite here will be actually one from this list. So the server hello message will either contain this or this, depending upon its capability. So it will specify that this is the one. Okay, so it usually picks the client's best preference. Fine, as per security. There is no obligation on the server that you have to use this one. Fine, but the one that is more appropriate will be selected by the server. And then it also specifies the compression method that is presented to the to the server to pick and choose from. But this is usually optional. I haven't seen, I have done some protocol analysis of the SSL and I haven't seen the compression method so far, but the feature is there. You can still utilize it if you require compression. Certificates, we also mentioned that there are some certificate transfer, at least from the so the certificates are the tokens or documents that are necessary for the authentication, either the server or the client. For the client it is optional, right? Client authentication is optional. We already mentioned that. Now what are certificates? We already mentioned it in the previous lectures as well, but it is most of the certificates there is a standard called X.509. Fine, this might be a new thing for you. We already discussed what is certificates, what are the major components or information in there. I think we have done it in the previous session. Okay, now X.509 is a standard that specifies how would we organize the information in a digital certificate. So digital certificate is a kind of a file, right, or a document that details each and every aspect of the certificate. Fine. X.509 is just a standard that helps us to understand how can we organize related information where in a digital certificate. So it's just an organizational structure definition for certificates. Okay, and they are usually being they usually associate the public key. We already mentioned it as well, that each digital certificate out there, it associate a public key of an entity, which in our case is the server. Fine, server public key with their identity. So we have seen the SKU certificate, and we'll also do it in the other session as well, in the demonstration session as well. Okay, so the X.509 certificate associate the public key with the identity of the organization to make sure that yes, this is the right identity and this is the right public key associated with it. And these are the organization. There are organizations out there that are responsible for creating certificates that organization or individual may require, and generally they are called what? CAs, certification authorities. Fine, these are the people who create and share the digital certificate with you, and then you can attach it with your web server or your file server for your authentication. How do they create it? There is a policy for each and every CA. There is a policy, there is a formality, there is a process associated with it that identifies. For example, SKU wants to have a digital certificate. What would they do? They would go to a CA here. Fine, there are CAs online, and they can also do it here with, I think, the ROP or the TRC. Or the TRC, there is this authority, communication related authority, who might be responsible for creating and defining, describing, creating the digital certificates for organizations. So they will go there and they will file an application for a digital certificate. That organization will perform verification that whether this is the right institute or not, are they involved in any kind of scam or things or not. So they have to properly authenticate the business and its operations, and the objective for which they are trying to create that digital certificate. Okay, and they also sign your certificate, so that when you present it to your user, to your customer doesn't what do you call it, they will not trust that certificate unless it is signed by that certification authority. Fine. So the certification authority has to sign with their private key. They have to sign your certificate to make it more legal or trustworthy. User of certificate must ensure it is valid. Fine. User of the certificate must show that it is valid. So it is your responsibility to make sure that whether the presented page, SKU page presented to you, actually belongs to the SKU or not. So you have to go to the certification details and see the proper identity. Usually this is done by default by your browser. So if the certificate is valid, it will be green. There is a lock inside, near the URL, and if it is green, it indicates that the certificate is valid. If it is red and a cross on it, it means that the certificate is invalid. So the user is given some kind of indication. But still, if they want to go into the details, they can click on the certification detail and have a look at to the certificate of that organization who presented their certificate to them. How can we validate it not from the user perspective, but from the organizational perspective? Must recognize accepted CAs in the certification chain. So for example, there is, let's just say, the ROP signs the certificate of the SKU. Fine. Now ROP might be if the SKU presenting this certificate to people who are there in the US, for example. Fine. The US people, they might not know who is ROP. This is a certification authority, but they might not know certification authority. So then they have to look at these guys have to look at who have signed this certification authority certificate, because they must also have their own certificate, right? So they will see that in this, it is a chain there. I think we have also seen it, the certification tree there, chain. So there is a chain. Let's just say this is from organization A. The organization A have actually signed the ROP certificate. The CA, these are all CAs. These are CAs. Okay, anything above this line are the CAs. And then we have organization B who have signed the digital certificate of A. Fine. So this is a trusted chain. This creates a trusted chain. This one is usually the most trusted CA. Fine. And this is usually called the root CA. So the root CA are they are recognized by every browser out there. But still, if you want to have a look at it, who has signed whose certificate, you can go to the details in the certificate and have a look at to the tree there, certificate chain there. So one CA may issue a certificate for another CA. This is what we have just discussed, to make sure that that CA is also trustworthy. Must verify the browser. Actually, your browser must verify. These are done by your browsers, by your web browser or the application with which you are using SSL. So for example, browser, and the browser must verify that the certificate has not been revoked. Fine. Now not been taken back. Why would a certificate be taken back? There are some reasons. One, is that organization for which the certificate has been granted. For example, SQU has been granted a certificate, but later on SQU changed its name to from Sultan Qaboos University to maybe Sultan Haytham University. Fine. The previous certificate was associated with this identity. Fine. So they cannot use it now for the Sultan Haytham University now. So it will be revoked by the certification authority. Fine. Also, each certificate has a validity, a time period associated with it. Fine. Usually up to 2 years, 2 to 3 years. Fine. So if this time period is over, the certificate expires. So in that case, it is the CA responsibility to revoke these invalid certificates. Fine. So your browser must be able to verify, which means that it should contact all these CAs frequently to make sure that it knows or it recognizes that the browser will not be presented with any revoked certificates. Okay. Where do they get this information? Where do browser get this information? From the certification revocation list. CRLs are list of digital certificate which has been revoked by particular CAs. Fine. And they are published on the CA's server, on these CA servers. Okay. And they are published regularly so that your user browser have an updated view of the revoked certificates. Okay. So every time you see a red sign or a cross sign on the certificate, it means that it is either invalid or it has been revoked. How does the browser know that? The browser know that because it contacts regularly these CRLs which are being published by the corresponding CAs. Okay, the client key exchange message, and we mentioned that the client key exchange message is actually a message that contains the encrypted PMS, pre-master secret, that is being encrypted by the value that has been shared in the server key exchange. Fine. This is your client key exchange message. So it is created by the client, as we mentioned earlier, and this is not directly used for encryption, decryption, or for message hashing. Instead, it is used as a seed, as an initial value to calculate more keys. Fine. It is used as a seed calculation of encryption parameters. So it is used as a seed value to create more keys, and those keys are then used for encryption, decryption, and for hashing, digest, message integrity. And it is sent encrypted to the server using the server public key most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, depending upon what has been sent in the server key exchange message. Fine. So see, this is always being shared encryptedly with which key? With the server public key or with the SKE information. What is the change cipher spec message? When we switch or confirm to the newly negotiated algorithms, when we confirm the SSL configuration and the key material. A key material means when from the PMS, when we derive the actual keys used for encryption, decryption, and for the message digest. All these keys are known as key material. Okay. So when both the parties agrees on the negotiated parameters and they have created this key material from the PMS, then they send each other what? The cipher change spec message. And the finish message, what is that message? It is the first encrypted message with the new crypto parameters. With the new crypto parameters means the algorithm that has been agreed upon and the key material which has been derived from the PMS. Fine. And it is what? A digest of negotiated master key. So it was not a random number, if you recall. This finish message is actually a digest of the negotiated master key, pre-master key. This is the pre-master key. Master key here means pre-master key because we'll see in a second what is a master secret and what is a pre-master secret and what are these key materials. Okay, so the finish message is actually the first digest, a first message right? Which is a digest, the make, not make here means the digest here means the make of the master secret. Fine. This is being sent by both the client and the server to the client. Okay. Now, what is a master secret? It is generated by both the parties, the client and the server, from the pre-master secret. Remember, in the client key exchange, we have what? The encrypted pre-master secret, and this is created by the client, fine, and then shared with the server. Now, when both have these PMS, from these PMS, they derive what? First, the master secret, fine. This is again used, this master secret again is used to derive the key material, fine, and then we use these key material for different purposes, for encryption, decryption, for different purposes of security objectives, to achieve security objectives. So the master secret, MS or M, it is generated by both the parties from where? From the pre-master secret that has been created and shared by the client. It is a 48-byte symmetric secret. Why symmetric? Because there is being derived from the single key, common key, so it is also symmetric key. And what is the length of it? 48 bytes. How is this generated? Very simple. Both the parties create the master secret as follow. This is actually the working of the SSL algorithm. Okay, so here you can see the characters A, B, B, C, C. These are the initial values. These are just dummy characters, fine, being used by the SSL to create the master secret from them. The one that you see here is the pre-master secret. Pre-master secret, pre-master secret. So the system, the SSL, both the parties create the pre-master secret as follows. First, they take the A character, then the pre-master secret, then the client random number which is there in the client hello message, and the server random number which is there in the server hello message, and they create a hash of it, a digest of it, using the secure hash algorithm 1. Okay, this secure so we will get what? Some hash. This is hash 1. They have to create, the system has to create, both the parties have to create 3 hashes here. The second hash is created as follow: the BB character, the pre-master secret, client, and the server random number. You apply the SHA on it, you get the hash, the digest. Similarly for the CC characters, these are predefined. Okay, CC, BB, AA, fine. The PM and the random numbers, you get the third hash. Both of them are again hashed with the pre-master secret again, fine. So with these calculated hashes, you again append the pre-master secret with all of these 3, and again take the digest of it, but this time using the MD5 algorithm, fine. This is 128-bit, this is 128-bit output, this is 128-bit output, and this one is also 128-bit output. And then these all are combined, these 3 hashes are combined to get what? The master secret, which is 48 bytes, fine. So this all becomes 128 times 3 is equal to 384 bits, fine. If you divide it by 8, you will get 48 bytes, which is this one. So this is how the master key is generated by the using the PMS by both the parties. Now, from this master secret that we have achieved from where? From the derived from the pre-master secret, we then have to create the key material. Yeah, I know it's a bit, it seems like they are redundant steps, but it is how it has been. The more you add complexity in the cryptography, generically speaking cryptography, the more you confuse the attacker, fine. So this more complexity is actually there to add more confusion and diffusion into the process, to make it harder for the attacker to reveal the key. So from the master secret we have to finally create the key material, and that would be the actual keys used for the encryption, decryption, hashing and everything. We have to create 6 keys actually, 6 key material, 6 keys. Okay, and these 6 keys together are called what? The key material. Now the master key is used to create the variable length, and it depends upon the communication. Okay, so it is not specific length but variable length, key material. Okay, and this variable length will be then divided into 6 material here that you can see here. We'll have a look at it later. So how are these key material generated? First of all, again, previously we make use of the pre-master secret. Now we'll be making use of the same processes there, but the different input is now given. A, the master secret, client random number, server random number. BB, master, these are predefined characters. Master secret, the random numbers of both client and the server. C, D, E, F, depending upon the requirement. It will be creating hashes. Fine, depending upon the requirements. Using the first hash is achieved using the SSA algorithm. Fine, so we'll be getting some digest value here. Again, with these hash values we will combine the master secret again one more time using the MD5 algorithms. Fine, to create more digest value or to create more hash values. All of these output hash values are then combined and they give us the key material. Okay, now these key material are then divided into 6 set of keys, 6 keys. Fine, so 6 different secrets are extracted from the key material, and they are what? These that you have seen: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fine, the first one is called the client authentication key. Fine, you have to then, the system has to then define how much bits of the client key of this key material should be used for the client key, how many length of bits will be used for the server authentication key, this and that. And everyone, both the client and the server, would have a copy of this because these are based on symmetric PMS. Okay, so the first one is the client authentication keys, a set of authentication keys. One is used for server, the other is used for the client. Okay, authentication key here means the key that will be used for the MAC, for the generation of the MAC of a packet that we will be sending later on. Okay, because MAC is what? A keyed hash. It is a keyed hash, right? It requires what? A key. So these key will be used to create these MACs. So for instance, if a client want to, let me yeah, so when a client, so let us say we have a client. It is still not selected. So when a client wants to, Allahu Akbar, so if a client wants to send a message to the server later on when all the handshake is completed, fine, what will it do? It has to create the MAC of the message, right? The packet. So it will be using which key? This key here, the client key. Fine, and it will send a message to the server. Now the server has to confirm, verify the hash, right? So verify the hash with which key? With this key, not with the server key. Okay, with the client key, because it has a copy of this key of the client authentication key. So it will make, the client will use a MAC of the message. This is the message, and using which key? The client authentication key, and it send it to the server. The server then will have to verify it, but which key will it be using for the verification? For this key. Okay, not the server authentication key. But when the server is going to send its own message to the client, it will be taking the MAC with what? MAC of the message with, this is your message, and this will be with the server authentication key. Oopsie, not kids AZ. Come on, what happened? With the server authentication key, okay, and then because the C has to verify it, fine, so it will be using which key for the verification of the MAC? The server authentication key. Both of them have both the copies, okay. Then if the client want to send a confidential message, an encrypted message to the server, which key will it be using for encryption? The client key. And then the same key will be used by the server, the same client key will be used by the server to decrypt the message from the client. But when the server is sending a message, a confidential message to the client, it will be using its own key, the server key. And then the client for the decryption will be using the server key, which also have a copy there. So these two are used for encryption, these two are used for the message digest, for the MAC calculation, for the keyed hash generation. Whereas these are initialization vectors. IV stands for initialization vectors, and these are not actually keys but initialization of the algorithms, okay. These are actually seed values given to the encryption process or the MAC process, fine, just to initialize. So you can say these are warm-up. These are warm-up values, initialization vectors, some values that are used as an input in the first stages of the encryption and decryption, okay. So these are used for just for initializing the algorithms that are used in encryption or in the MAC generation, fine. I hope you will now understand how does it work. I will come back to you in another part.